It's going to be huge.
And before we get started, this is an abbreviated version of a talk I've given 5 times so far in the last couple months. And my discussions have ranged anywhere from this 2 days ago, Wednesday, in the Illinois CPA side of 90 minutes to 60 minutes last week to the Accounting Association group of students at Lake Forest College, and all the way down to 30 minutes today. So I'm going to go kind of fast through the slides. I'll breeze through them. There's way more material here than we can discuss. But I think it'll give you a flavor for what's going on with regard to tax policy as it is evolving right now. Before that, though, I want to share something with you. We were talking about branding in the accounting profession, and I just wanted to say, when I went to Lake Forest College, it really helps if you have a T-shirt that says "Accountants make life less taxing." So, you know, I had many students come up to me afterwards and say, "I didn't know accounting was so cool." And only 30 to 40 students were in my class, and only one had ever had a tax class. So we're keeping it high level, kind of like I'm doing it here. Keep it very level, but my gift later on was, I'm now taxman. So they replaced the Superman logo with a T for taxman. So that's more evidence that tax is now cool. It depends on how you present it. So let's just go over a little bit about how I break the ice with the students. And that's what my mission here today is to show you what I discuss with students and with practitioners, but also a little bit about how I break the ice, because the discussion this morning has been focused primarily on how do we get more students in the profession. So I start out with some jokes, and I think Ken Milani will laugh at these because his are much better than mine. But what does an accountant do to stay out of debt? He learns to act his wage. What do you call an accountant without a spreadsheet? Lost. Believe it or not, I put a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, as many of you know. I have had 9,200 hits on these jokes since April 15th when I put them up there. So again, getting the accounting profession, we're a bunch of fun guys here. You know, I mean, this is really cool stuff. So I think we can do a little bit in the 201 classes too, just to make it more fun.
I was going to say, life's not consistent with that.
What's
Life's not consistent.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, I'll give everybody more time then to be audit. You can be, Fred. There you go. So let's go.
Great. If I can't figure out how to make
what happened on Wednesday, and this is a quote from a week ago, anticipating this Wednesday, this past Wednesday, 2 days ago. In my talk on Wednesday morning, it started at 8 a.m. To the Illinois CPA Society, to a group there. They actually paid to come hear me listen, which I was amazed at that at first. I didn't know what was going to happen at noon on Wednesday. So I had to rush back to the office this afternoon. Trump came out, Mnuchin came out with some very vague statements, but some of which changed about 6 or 7 slides. I had to rush to get these done before I drove down here Wednesday night. But this is what Donald Trump said, and almost everything that's in these slides was discussed at the campaign level. And I'll point out some of the differences as we get to them. When I go over with the students, or went over with the students, I'm not going to go over with you, is just the basic civics of the political process and where we are at today. And what is a supermajority? What do we need in the Senate to pass law? After 10 years, does it have to be revenue neutral or not? Do you need 51 votes or 60 votes to get to the Senate? What happened with Judge Gorsuch and the Supreme Court nomination, and how did Trump get that through? And a little bit of, hey, you know, we're accountants, we're tax accountants, but we also have to, pay attention to this and understand basic politics. What's going on in the House? What's going on in the Senate? I will go over, and you'll see a chart in a minute on the Ryan Plan, as I will sometimes refer to it as. I'll also refer to it as last summer's House Plan, the current Trump Plan, and then current law. And we'll go through, how the process works. Now, as you know, or everybody in here should know, the process is going to start for the new tax law in the House. And that's why the House has thrown out their first draft last summer of what they proposed. Trump now is coming back and responding to that. The Senate won't respond until it goes through the House vote. It goes to the Joint Conference, Joint Committee on Taxation, and ultimately it's the Treasury that's going to have to implement the rules and regulations and the new law once the president signs it. And that, with regard to the Lake Forest students, several questions came up during our session that I would refer back to the slide and said, well, that's Treasury's problem, because they had a lot of questions about how do you implement this border adjustment tax? Well, let's go back to the slide. Where does it end or where does it begin after the president signs the law? I added April 26th on here on Wednesday afternoon to this slide. That date was not on here when I presented this 2 days ago to the CPA Society, but that's where the House unveils the Trump opening bid for the biggest tax cut that happened at noon on Friday. Again, there are only a few changes to what he's been talking about during the campaign. But you're seeing some flip-flopping here. I just want to point out the flip-flopping of priority between the repeal of ACA and his tax reform proposals. Now, we all know on March 24th, Speaker Ryan could not get the votes in the House to put forth the repeal of ACA. So ACA then went on the back burner, and on April 4th, the Trump administration came out and said, you know, gosh, that's too bad. Paul Ryan, pointing his finger at Ryan, saying it's his fault, he didn't get it through, I'm going to move on to tax reform. April 12th, only 8 days later, Trump reversed himself and said, no, now I've decided I'm going to repeal ACA myself, or I'm going to come up with a plan to repeal ACA myself, and now tax is going on the back burner. Now, we shoot forward to this past Wednesday, now tax is back on the front burner. So you've seen a flip-flop in only 2 weeks on what the priority is of the Trump administration. The first 100 days ends on April 30th. I got up early this morning, I'm watching Fox News, I checked my Twitter feed at 3 a.m. just to see if he said anything about taxes. My life has become very internet-focused the last 90 days. The first 100 days really means nothing, but he's been rushing through from a PR point of view to get this out there on April 26th. When do we think anything's going to be effective? At the earliest, January 1, 2018. And something will happen, more likely than not. I use that term, a legal term. More likely than not, something will happen, and it will be effective on January 1st, 2018. And that means practitioners and all accountants, all of you in the room, have to start thinking about year-end planning coming up over the next 8 months. So I kind of use this with the students, just kind of showing the flip-flop, right? The back and forth, businesses and individuals, especially high-wealth individuals, have been anticipating